Well, I bet you never heard him this quiet, have you, Jack? Bet you never heard him this quiet. A bit of background music. Right, we're ready to go. How are we all? Good? Who's just done the workout? Yeah, the most sweaty people. The people in normal clothes, you guys look the most comfortable. I'm Lee. Thank you all for having me. Thank you to Jack for letting me come down. You all probably know my mum better. She's over there. But thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me your time on a Thursday evening to talk about nutrition. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing all the fun stuff, like drinking, nice food, all that sort of stuff. You can do all of that. But what today is, we're just going to go through a couple of things that I think are the fundamentals of managing mainly your body weight, and then looking at like ways to fuel your performance within CrossFit. Because within CrossFit we go performance first, and then as a byproduct you improve your aesthetics, like your confidence, everything like that. So that is all based around this. A little bit of background from me. I run what's called the Newburn Fitness Collective. My name's Lee Newburn. I run a box up in Manchester called Gritstone CrossFit, which you're all welcome. Oh, we're not CrossFit anymore, actually. I can't say that. I have to edit out a video because we got a bit of a lawsuit of CrossFit for having our name green CrossFit. So please don't tell CrossFit on me. But we are CrossFit. We was a 10-year affiliate, and we took down last year. But if you are in Manchester at any point, please come down and do a little drop-in. I'd love to have you all. And hopefully over the next few days, seeing as I'm doing this for free, I'm hoping Jack will give me a couple of drop-ins for free. What do you reckon? That's a good deal, that, right?
That's fair,
yeah. How about, you've got the socks on, I've noticed.
Yeah, free socks.
Right. So by the end of the session, I have some things right now. Jack, if you don't mind, actually, would you go and get over by the cake?
Yeah.
There is some sheets and some pens. If everyone could have one. I've printed out 14, but my maths isn't good. It doesn't feel like I've got enough. Okay. With a juice. Okay, fair enough. And then Mum, you might have to have the short straw. You might not have one, yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong with them? Yeah. Like a straw. There's enough pens, definitely enough pens. Right at the top, yeah? Takes a lot, I put a lot of effort into those, yeah. Right, there is a lot of things on that plan. We'll go through the presentation, the seminar, and then there's a point at the end where we'll go through sort of each piece and what's super important, and then there's a little bit of dreaded maths. So the people that have just done the workout, and you've got a bit of workout brain, you know how hard it is to do multiples of 2. That's going to get super complicated. So get your phones out, we'll use the calculators, and we'll sort it all out then. By the end of the seminar, this worksheet will be filled in, and you'll have a bit of context as to what each section means, and then you can use that in whatever way you want to use it. If you want to go and do it lone wolf style DIY, you are more than welcome to. Just for complete clarity, at the end I do a 4-week challenge if you want to partake in it. It's essentially accountability from me, and then an opportunity for you guys to ask questions so that you're not left on your own. But I'm going to try my hardest to provide you with absolutely everything you need, and then the recording afterwards if you want to look back at it. So there's no obligation to sign up to the challenge, but you are also welcome to join in a challenge if you want to, and it'll just be you guys that do it. So it'll be a Bodmin accountability nutrition challenge for the next 4 weeks. A couple of things before we get super into this. I'll be going through the framework of what you will do for your nutrition. There are so many more things that we can talk about, but I'm not going to take up all of your time. And frankly, some of the things are completely out of my scope. I do have a degree in sports nutrition, but there are loads of things around like eating disorders, psychology around nutrition, so many things that come into play. I don't talk about any of that. If anybody suffers with anything like that, you can still listen to everything like that. Maybe speak to me individually if you feel more comfortable too. But some of the things does need to be taken into context with that. That's kind of the most serious bit, that if you struggle with anything, some of this may not be totally applicable for you. That's probably the most serious I get throughout the whole thing. Everything else though, you can use how you like. This is not going to be a diet plan. So this isn't strict broccoli, rice, chicken, all that sort of stuff. This is something that, so you have a framework that you'll understand, and then you can apply it to your own life and use what you currently do and start to make tweaks and changes so that you can then start to change what you already do and get better at it and get the outcome that you want. A bit like with CrossFit, you don't expect to come in and do everything on day one. You work within your capabilities. Hopefully, Jack, Phoebe, you're a coach as well, aren't you? Is Daryl there? Daryl's not here, no. You guys should hopefully go, no, get up and do a muscle up. It should be, no, we've not got pull-ups yet, let's work on some banded pull-ups. So you used to work where you're at, and that's what we'll do today. The 3 things that will help with you being successful at that are that you have to be consistent with it. You can't squat on day 1 and then expect to have a 200 kilo back squat the next day. You've got to squat consistently for a long period of time. The same applies for nutrition, any way that you want to take it, whether you want to perform well, whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to gain muscle. It takes quite a long time and you have to be consistent with it. So consistency is one of the main things. The knowledge, which hopefully you will get today, and then the accountability, whether that's with me, with your peer group. You can just tell people that you're doing it on your own. You could tell your loved ones, or you could tell your dog. Your dog's probably the best one because it won't tell you off if you're eating shit at night, but hopefully you'll love it enough that it'll keep you accountable. And then you can challenge yourself for the 28 days with what we're going to talk about today if you want to. And then just the main thing with this is over the next 28 days, if you can apply what you learn, the next 28 days will be better than the 28 days if we hadn't have had this talk. That's all that I want you to think about throughout this. So the foundations of nutrition, like I said, there's so many things that you can delve into. Some of the things that you will have heard about already seem really, really complicated, but my main aim is going to be to make it super simple. So as an umbrella term, hopefully you've all heard of like calories, or calorie deficit is like the buzzword in the fitness space, or more scientifically termed your energy balance, or you have like an energy deficit, energy surplus. So calories are a measurement of energy, and whether you like it or not, you are always in one of the 3 of deficit, maintenance, or surplus. Most of us will probably be at maintenance or surplus without knowing, and you'll know roughly depending on what progress you're making. Within that, you've got your macronutrients, your micronutrients, and then hydration, and then you do also have alcohol in there, which is another form of macronutrient. But you already do all of that stuff without thinking about it. So as complicated as it all is, one of the main resistance points that I get is people start worrying about macro splits, about the types of food to eat, whether they're super healthy or not, whether it's a good quality food, whether it's organic, all that sort of stuff. All of that you will do no matter what, with all the other different factors that come into play. But just to touch on a few bits, within your calorie or energy balance, you have your macronutrients, which provide units of energy anyway. And just a really simple term to keep them in mind is you've got your Go, Grow, and Mojo. So I'm going to test a couple of you. Does anyone know what macronutrient Go might be? Carbs, yes. Grow, I'm not going to ask you again. Anyone think what Grow could be? Protein. And then Mojo is fats. Now, I think this is a really good way of looking at it because fats typically get a bit of a bad rap. But fats are one of the main macronutrients that make you feel good. That especially for women, your hormone balance is super important. So we need to make sure we've got a healthy amount of fats within your diet to be able to regulate your hormones. Lads too, but then you also get into skin health, and it's a real good source of energy, particularly if you're working out as hard as we all do. Grow, which is one of the main ones. You all work really, really hard. We need to make sure we're getting an amount of protein within our diet. You will be doing that anyway, so long as you don't have restrictions, like maybe if you are vegan or vegetarian, it's a little bit harder, but you will still be getting an amount of protein within your diet. And then Go, the most important one and usually the most tasty, is your carbohydrates. We need to make sure that you're getting those in for working out. Micronutrients, the simplest way of looking at it is they're the little things that make you feel good, which is why my wife calls me a micronutrient. She actually does, but that is not what you think about the little thing. The hydration side of thing is super important, especially in this weather. We need to make sure that we're staying super hydrated. Hydration is one of the main factors when it comes to degrades in performance. So you can be just slightly hydrated and your performance can drop exponentially. So you need to make sure that you're staying super hydrated. Right on cue, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Could be vodka. Yeah. um, but yeah, so with all of that, there's so much you can delve into. But like I've said, I want to keep it really, really simple. You can't really see this meme, but it's the meme of one of the managers saying sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. And you will do all of this, sometimes good and sometimes not so good. But because it is super complex, try and not think about any of that. Let's just think about the top end, which is talking about your energy balance. So, with energy balance, there's loads of things that happen, and your body's got a real good way of finding balance in some way. So if we think about energy being the thing that your body needs to move, grow, survive, which you get from all the other macronutrients, which are all broken down into those forms of energy, everything breaks down into you either moving, growing, or surviving. If you're not consuming enough energy, your body does this really tricky thing of making you want to consume more, so your appetite increases and then you want to eat a little bit more, which obviously everyone's going, well, yeah, of course. Or if you're not eating enough, you'll start to break into your energy stores. So if you think about it, you've got loads of money and you need to dip into your savings, you've got a savings pot that you're then going to chip into and start to chip away at that. Your energy stores are forms of glycogen, which are in your muscle, fat, which is broken down into more energy. It's like a denser form of energy. And then your muscle will actually broken down to be an energy as well. If we think about to the sort of dire end of things, when you are really, really old or you're really, really poorly, you will start to degrade muscle so that your body has to find energy in some way. And the reason why I've got these three things down is because your body will find a way of using energy if you're in an energy deficit or you're in a calorie deficit. So it'll either make you eat more because it doesn't want to dip into that, or if you don't eat more, it'll dip into your glycogen, it'll dip into your fat, and then eventually into your muscle. If, on the other side, you consume too much energy, your hunger will be decreased. But unfortunately, as smart as we all are, we are not as smart as the people that get paid millions and millions of pounds to make that Kit Kat chunky that little bit more tastier, that little bit more flaky, just to have another bite. The same for the packaging, to buy a little bit more, same for the pricing, the same for the offer, the way it's placed in the shop. As smart as we all are, we're not as smart as those people. So even though our hunger is decreased, we're still going to want to eat more because we're not going to be so in tune with our hunger that we can get away from all those really clever people that make us eat more. And then you then start to increase your body stores. If you eat more, you're then going to start to increase body stores, whether it's in glycogen, whether it's in fat, or whether it is building in muscle. So the reason why I've put that in there for muscle is everyone thinks of gaining weight as a bad thing. Now it isn't a bad thing, because if you want to gain weight and you want to build muscle, you have to be in an energy surplus to then start to build it. If you're in an energy deficit, you're not going to be able to build. Your actions at the bottom there, if you can see it, whether that's with your diet or your activity, nutritionally, physically, they dictate what happens, whether you gain weight, whether you decrease weight, whether you build muscle, whether you lose muscle, whether you train hard, whether you don't train hard. All of those things are down to whether you eat well or move well, or don't eat well and don't move well. Those are the main things that we're going to focus on as to get you moving in the way you want to go. And the main thing is that you're in control. I want you to think about all of the ways that we can be in control. Now, I didn't expect kids to be here, but a little joke, we're all going to be doing daily tugs. And we want to do daily tugs in the right direction. No matter what you do, you're going to be pulled to one side or the other. Okay? If you want to go towards the side of gaining weight, you need to be making tugs on the tug of war towards gaining weight. If you want to lose weight, you want to go in the other way. And each one is a very, very small pull in the right direction. And we want to make sure that we're so far in one direction that if things happen in the other direction, say we want to lose weight and we get all the way onto this side, it's got you that one, hasn't it? If you want to get all the way onto that side, if you then do something like you go to your friend's wedding or Margaret brings in cake to the office, then you get a little bit more towards this side. It doesn't derail you and pull you all the way across. It's just a small action that pulls you back towards that gain weight side. So if we want to gain weight or we don't want to gain weight, we need to focus on the calories that we consume and then your inactivity. If you consume too many calories or in excess calories or calories that don't get utilised for anything like training or for maybe enjoyment, that's also something you need to consider, you will pull yourself in the way of gaining weight. If you are inactive, that is another action in the way of pulling you towards the gain weight side. And then your activity side, all the activity, and then your calories controlled, that isn't calories consumed or calories avoided, that's calories controlled. That will take you in the direction of losing weight, and also it could be that you are controlling it in a way that you're consuming more if you're someone that wants to gain weight. But I want you to think about all of your daily actions, physically and nutritionally, in pulling you one way or the other. And depending on what your goal is, you want to go in one direction. So thinking about energy in, this is the part where you're mostly in control. Literally everything that goes past your mouth, unfortunately, has some impact on what you do. And that includes things that don't have calories within them. So things like water, we've just talked about hydration. You are in control of what you have. But if we're thinking about just in terms of energy, you are in full control of everything that you put into your body for a form of energy. And you can control that with just sheer willpower, which you can do, but there'll be points where willpower doesn't play. Margaret's bringing cake in again, and I just love cake, so I'm going to have some more. And willpower won't serve it because it's the cake that I love. You could do a food diary, which is a great way of being super accurate. I'm sure Jack bangs on about you all tracking your workouts and your scores and your 1 rep maxes and all that, and I'm sure you're all thinking, I don't do that. And when you get to the whiteboard and you've got a percentage to work on, because I know you're all doing 20 rep back squats because there's an evil man, you should know what your 1 rep max is. But for the people that don't, they've got an inaccurate way of applying it to the workout because they don't know what their exact percentages are. But I also understand that tracking is a very tedious thing. I don't personally track because I find it so boring that it actually puts me off doing it, and then I end up just forgetting about everything. Some people love it. My missus loves to track. She tracks everything that she has. It depends on what you want to do. But I would say the most accurate way of doing it is having a food diary. You can use MyFitnessPal or NutriTrek is a better one. That's the UK based one, so you get to scan foods and it comes up exactly what it is, and it's in all the correct servings rather than cups and things like that. That's weird on the American side. You can then do other things that again aren't exactly accurate but are forms of control. You can control your portion size, you can control with restrictions, so you could just outright say I'm not having chocolate biscuits for the next period of time, or alcohol, and live a bit of a boring life, or takeaways, or whatever it is. You can be really, really restrictive in what you have, or you can swap things out. So you're all going to probably think less of me now, but I prefer rich teas over digestives. But you can have 3 rich teas for every 1 digestive. So yeah, there you go. Thank you. That very rarely gets said when I do these talks.
This is where they know you're an expert.
Yeah. Rich teas, yeah, exactly. So you can swap things out for things that are just a little bit more conducive towards your goals. I would rather have 3 biscuits rather than 1 biscuit. It's great. I'm grateful that I prefer the taste of rich teas over digestives, but if you're someone that's like, I'd just rather have more biscuits, you could do a really simple swap there, and you're still having 3 biscuits. It's less calories than 1 digestive. Let's be real, you're not having 1 digestive, you're probably having 3. But if I said to you, if you wanted to lose weight, you can still have 3 biscuits, you'd be like, sign me up. That sounds fantastic. So little things like that are ways that we can start to control what we have in. Now, energy out. This is where it gets a little bit more of a balancing act, and some things hopefully might surprise you. Most of your energy is consumed by what's called your basal metabolic rate, which is essentially if you were in a coma and you did absolutely nothing, but your heart, your brain, your lungs, everything like that, your muscle mass was trying to be retained, in keeping you alive, that's already the amount of energy that you burn. So you burn a large chunk without doing anything. Imagine fitness was that easy. Just sit on the couch and you get fitter. The other side of things, which is a really small bit, if you can see just at the end there, that says TEF. That's, the scientific term is the thermic effect of food, but it's essentially the amount of energy it costs to burn your food off. And certain macronutrients do, you'll have all heard like protein costs more to burn, takes more calories to burn, so you could create more weight loss, or you could create more of an energy deficit by consuming more protein. While that is true, it's a very negligible amount of what you can control. So I don't want you to focus on that. When we think about being really simple, we're going to focus on these 2 things here. which is NEAT and EAT. So it stands for exercise activity thermogenesis, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which essentially means the amount of energy you burn through doing exercise or non-exercise. The one that we all do really, really well is this chunk over here, which is your exercise activity points. We all come into the gym. Hopefully you come to the gym fairly regularly, maybe like 3 times a week ideally, which would be really, really good. Now that is meant for burning an amount of calories, but whilst you're in the gym, you're probably not burning as many calories as you think. You're probably overestimating the amount of calories you think. Your watch is probably telling you you're doing way more than what you think. If you sat on the bike and you did 100 calories, we all know that 100 calories on the concept bike is a lot easier than 100 calories on the Echo bike. But it says they're the same thing, right? They're so wildly inaccurate that they're not something that we need to focus on. And for you guys, you already come to the gym and you enjoy it, so you're burning calories without even thinking. The thing that you're going to focus on is the larger chunk, which is your non-exercise activity, which this applies more to people that are wanting to lose weight or manage the weight. It's the things that you do that you are while you're not in the gym. We've got 1 hour a day where we're in the gym. We've got 12 other hours if we're up for most of the day where we're not in the gym. So we need to make sure that we're up and moving around. We're doing little things like you'll have all heard, hopefully, that you should park a little bit further away from the shop, so you've got a little bit further to walk in. You could carry a basket rather than push a trolley. You could carry a rucksack wherever you go. Things like that that will just cost a little bit more energy. You could make sure that you take the stairs at work, which is another very typical one. All little things like that, which just over the general course of the day will increase your energy output. Now, while that is super relevant for people that are thinking about fat loss, it's also super relevant for people that are thinking about muscle gain. Now, if you want to stay like super, super lean, you're probably someone that stays very, very active, do quite a lot of runs, quite a lot of walking, sort of like low intensity style stuff that burns a lot. But if you want to build a lot of muscle mass, you're better off bringing that up back a little bit and being someone that parks a little bit close to the shops, or taking the elevator or lift if we're not in America. If you are someone that's thinking about muscle gain, you need to bring back on the ways where you're burning energy, because if you're burning that energy, your body can't use it to then build muscle. So think of it almost like a direct exchange in that way. The hour of exercise we do in the gym is not as powerful as the 10 hours of general activity that we can do. If you did a little bit of activity every single hour on the hour, you would burn more than what you come in doing what you've just done there. That was it 4 rounds of 600 meter run and 10 hand cleans. Now, although that was super intense and took a lot of effort, I'd edge a bet on you probably sit somewhere between 150 and maybe 300 calories burned actually, which is a lot of effort. Whereas you could probably burn 150 calories by standing up for most of the hour, every hour. And that would be a massive increase, and you don't actually have to do a lot. That's why things like walking pads and stand-up desks do wonders for people that want to lose weight. So if we're talking just about fat loss, we've got your surplus, your maintenance, and your deficit. As a depiction, if you think about it in terms of scales, if you want to be in a surplus, you need to have more going in than what's going out. If you want to be at maintenance, you want to be around that balance point. But if we're just thinking about fat loss, when thinking about calories consumed and energy going out, they need to be roughly the same. And then the deficit side of things, we just need to increase the out more. So we could either consume less and do more, or do less but then consume even less. So that this side is more weighted, so it tips the scales in that way. If you're thinking about fat loss, we need to be thinking mainly about these two. And this one is super important, which most people don't consider when it comes to fat loss. Before we get into fat loss, actually, just so we can break up me just talking at you all for a given period of time, who is thinking that they want to take their nutrition approach in the way of fat loss or maybe maintaining weight? Yeah, who's thinking about muscle gain? Who's thinking about potentially both? Who's not sure? Cool. Well, everything we write down, you'll be able to take it in the way that you are. I think it's important that you know all of them, because what you want to do now will change what you want to do over Christmas. What you do over Christmas will change what you want to do before your summer holiday. When you've got that amount of muscle and you want to lean off a little bit, you want to do that. So try and bear all of these things in mind. Fat loss, fortunately, is the easiest one to manipulate, depending on which way you want to take it. If you want to lose a lot of weight or just some weight, fat loss is the simplest one. When we come to performance and muscle gain, they're more complicated and require a little bit more attention to detail. So we've got a cool little story about the hare, the tortoise and the tree. You'll all have heard the hare and the tortoise. But what we're thinking about in terms of the hare, the tortoise and the tree, we're thinking about an approach towards fat loss. So in the story of the hare and the tortoise, you'll know that the tortoise wins because he goes slow and steady. The hare goes really, really fast, burns out the end, gets tired, falls asleep and then loses the race overall. The main thing is they're all making progress and they make progress in their own little way. If we're thinking about ways that we can lose fat and we focus on the two up top, your hare approach is a very, very fast form of fat loss. And like I said, it is really, really aggressive, which is great because you start to lose weight very quickly. You get really motivated because you see that weight is being lost very quickly and that might spur you on to keep going. If you've got a short time frame, we need to be able to do it quite quickly. But there are things that come as cons with it. There are also that you have a lot of room for error. If you're creating a huge deficit and then you, for some reason, I don't know, you come in and Jack forces you that cake over there and you've got to have it, otherwise you've got to do a million burpees. You are in such a big deficit that you can afford to have that little bit of cake. But if we were over here in the tortoise side of things and we had a smaller deficit, that might wipe out our deficit. And that might be your kids bringing something home from school that you've got to eat, otherwise you'll ruin the childhood, something like that. There's got to be some room for error, and that's the best way to create it in the hare. In the con side of things, when you are talking about a really fast approach to fat loss, it's really hard to maintain because it is quite aggressive. If I asked you all to do a sprint and sprint for as long as possible, you wouldn't be able to sprint for the same amount of distance that you would be able to jog for. If you approach fat loss in the same way, you will get something out of it, but it's very likely that you'll then drop off really, really quickly. You also risk the burnout side of things. Now, if you've got something coming up like a wedding or a holiday or a birthday that you want to be really, really fit for, it's a really good motivator to push really, really hard, and you can avoid that risk of burnout. You can mitigate some of it because you've got a reason to do it. If you've not, there's probably something that you need to find to keep you pushing hard. Otherwise, you will probably just burn out, and then you'll be that person that does really, really well, falls off a cliff, and then regresses loads. And we'll have all have heard that the faster you lose weight, the quicker you gain it back. That's only true because the approach is unsustainable, and then you go back to extreme measures that then you gain it just as quick. There isn't anything within your regulatory systems that then say, I've lost this fat in this amount of time, I'm going to gain it all back in that amount of time. That's not how it works. It is more to do with habits and systems that you've got in place, and because you can't sustain what you're doing for a very long time, and then you end up going back to how you were previously, or even worse, you then find yourself crying at the bottom of a tub of Ben & Jerry's because you've pushed it a little bit too hard. If we think about the tortoise, it's more sustainable. You can do it for a long period of time. It's more flexible. You can allow for more occasions, more events. You can enjoy a beer. You can have more cake. You can do whatever you want. You can enjoy times with loved ones, make some memories. It's also a little bit more resilient in terms of what you've got coming up. If it is around Christmas time, or if you want to go on holiday and you want to still make progress because you still want to push, you could probably still stay in a slight deficit, but then you have to weigh up whether it's worth being on holiday for a good amount of time, enjoying yourself and coming back to it. But the main thing is that the slower approach is more resilient. The cons to it though are that the fat loss process is much slower. And I'll talk about fluctuations towards the end, but it might be that you get demotivated because you feel like you're putting in a lot of hard work and you're not seeing any return on the scales in particular, or in your feeling, in your body. So you then get a slower result, you then get turned off by it. So you then just end up binning it. And you're so close to no progress that if you do make mistakes, you might find yourself accidentally being in this category. A little story is, I was working with a lad who showed me his food diary, and he was in quite a large deficit, and I couldn't work out why he wasn't losing weight. Like at this point I was thinking, you must be an alien. There's no reason why what you're telling me you're eating doesn't mean you're not losing weight. And I went through his diary with like a fine-tooth comb, and I got him to send pictures of everything, and he sent me his protein shake. And I was like, just show me what is on the back of that protein shake, and he sent me the nutrition label. He's having 2 a day, and it was a mass gainer shake, and he was having 1,000 calories per shake. So he's having 2,000 calories on top of what he thought he was having, around 300 to 400 calories. So he's massively knocked himself out of the deficit. Now I'll tell you that story because if you're there and you're in a small deficit, but you're making some sort of mistake that you're not aware of, you might not be in a deficit and you might not be making progress. So we need to be aware that there are different forms of approaches. In that case, it might be worth going really aggressive, so you've got more room for error for a period of time while you work it out. And the tree is the character that I've added in. It is really important to know that you can just stay still. You don't have to regress. The analogy of making a 6-egg omelette and smashing 1 egg on the floor and then smashing the rest of the 5 because you dropped one on the floor and you just catastrophize, because what's the point? That's really, really silly to do. If you are in a maintenance and you just go, oh, I've got 5, I'm just going to make a 5-egg omelette now, I'm just going to do the best I can with what I've got, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not completely catastrophizing, I'm still making progress in terms of not regressing. It's really important that we know what our maintenance calories are. That will also allow for the busier periods of life. Now, if anyone's into finances and budgeting, this will scratch your brain a little bit. If in a second, when you work out your calorie amount, we'll work out what your weekly amount is, which will give you a really, really nice big number, and you can play with that number however you want. If you're somebody that just wants to go, nope, I want to do it exactly as it is every single day, no change, I like square boxes and routine, you can just do 2,000 calories every single day, which will equate to 14,000. If you're somebody that likes to party on the weekend, which some of you might be, some of you might not be, I don't know, I'm not going to out you, you might want to save a little bit more for the weekend. You might want to have 1,800, which saves you 200 calories per day, which gives you a total of 1,000 more calories, and then you can have 2,500 per day, which means you still end up at 14,000. We could go with just active days or treat days. You can have a low day where you're not training, you can have a high day or slightly high day where you are training, and then you can still party at the weekends. And I know that's really poor with the yellow on the back, but it's 1,500 calories, 2,000 calories, and 2,500 and 2,250. But each person there would potentially get a very, very similar outcome in terms of weight maintenance, weight loss, or weight gain. So, in terms of your budget, in a second, I think, is it the next slide? Yes. What we'll do is, rather than me talk more about the budgeting, if you could all just work out your numbers on there. If you haven't got a phone, we can work it out roughly. What I'd like you to do is just take what your body weight is in kilograms, if you do know it, and just write down underneath the 22, the 25 and the 30. If you weighed 100 kilograms, you would times it by 22, which would give you your result. If you want to out people like that, you can do. Like a weightlifting meet or a face-off in a boxing match. If you don't know what your weight is, or you don't want to do your weight, do it as your ideal weight. If you've got a weight in mind that you think I would like to be, that will give you, again, a little bit of something to work towards. While you're working out, if anyone's got any questions, fire them over to me. Everything making sense so far? Yeah? Good. Have you got a goal in mind? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
Well, no, I'm getting married in February.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I'm also diabetic, so it's a bit of a
Yeah, you have to.
type 1,
Yeah.
a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got to manage that. Yeah. But the fundamentals will still apply.
Yes. Just allowing for the
Yes.
lows.
Yes. Yeah. But as soon as you've got an awareness of what you would have, you'll find out very quickly that, like, whoa, that's way too low.
Yeah.
Or you could sort of ride the line a little bit. You can find out, and tracking in a way that will definitely help with that. Are you guys finding it okay so far? Following? Have you got an idea of what you want to get out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, with the rubber floor. Put it on the ski. Phoebe, you might want to do it again because it's the rubber floor will change what the scales read.
Will it make me heavy?
I don't want to say. Are we following along?
Yeah, so it was our body weight times that.
Yep. Yep.
I was just saying that. I don't, yeah, the thought of that would. I think I'd get really hangry. My job's quite physical.
Okay. Yeah.
And it can really alter day to day. Some days I'm just sat in a tractor. Other days I'm like out swimming with the
Yep. Yeah. So this is so for you. So the numbers are based off like population level equations.
Yeah.
It is like a bit like a bell curve in that most people sit within the middle bit. I would say you know yourself that if I was to put you in a line of 100 people, would you be someone that's got a more active job than most people? Yeah. So I would say what I would do is I would not use those numbers, but I would track what you currently have.
Okay.
What's your goal? Would you want to lose weight, gain weight? Lose a couple of kilos? Yeah. So what I would do is I would not worry about the numbers as a target or an aim or anything like that. I would track what you currently do, which is on a couple of slides, but I track what you currently do, see how that affects your weight. You might find that just by tracking, you start to become a little bit more mindful about what you're eating, and that might bring you down a little bit. If you're somebody that consumes, I don't know, say 3,000 calories, and then you're thinking, do you know what, I probably don't need 3,000, I'll bring it down to 2,800. Then you'll start to see how the weight changes on the scales relative to you, like everything has to be contextual. So don't worry too much about that. It's a bit like BMI, right? I'm morbidly obese on BMI. I'm not morbidly obese. So the numbers don't apply to everybody, but they should just be a guide, and the guide would work in that your numbers would be different, but find what works for you. So track for 3 to 4 days, see what happens. I'd say weigh yourself every day if you feel comfortable with that, and then track the average of your weight. Yeah. Loads of things affect you. I'll talk about this as well. You're getting a bit of a sneak peek. Water retention, where you are within like your menstrual cycle will affect it massively. The types of food you've eaten, if you've been to the toilet, not been to the toilet, the time of day that you do it, things like that. Even the position of your scales, things like that can affect it slightly. So the best thing to do is get as many data points as possible in terms of your weight in the morning. See where it's going. You'll see it go up, down, up, down, up, down, and then you'll see a trend. It'll either be going up, down in the direction of down, flat, or slightly up. And in which case, you know whether to go up on your calories, keep them the same, or drop them. Yeah? About yourself?
Yeah, that looks very low.
Yeah. So the same applies to you. Like there are too low numbers, and I would also advise you not to go for that. This is something I'm going to mention in a second. A lot of them will be very, very low. What's your goal?
For performance and to gain muscle.
Okay, so that is certainly, you don't want to be.
You want to be in deficit anyway.
No, you want to be way more up there. If your aim is performance and muscle gain, this is where this comes in a little bit more into place. Certainly the protein.
Yeah.
And you'd have to factor in the energy that you expend through doing activity generally. So you're in the way of, you're not trying to tip the scales for a deficit, you're trying to tip the scales in terms of a surplus, right? Because you're trying to perform, you're trying to have more energy than what you need, yeah? So if you're being active, you need to then replace what you're being active with energy consumed. So that would be to maintain without factoring what you've done as activity.
Oh, right, okay.
So you'd have to build on top of that.
Right.
And then the same applies, like you would have to track your body weight for a period of time, or track your feeling in terms of performance, in terms of recovery, energy, happiness, all those sort of things. If they're not in the way you want to, I would just say, as a blanket rule, consume more. And you know, with that, obviously the caveat is, don't consume more fudge cake. Consume more like whole foods, consume more of what you already do. Exactly, yeah, which would be wonderful. You could eat more chocolate.
It's going to make you feel like shit anyway.
Exactly, yeah. The time I would say do eat chocolate is if you want to perform really well. Chocolate is a fantastic way of giving your body some energy to come and do this. So have some chocolate, but have it in a way that utilises the next thing that you do. If you have chocolate and you're just going to sit at home, or sit on your tractor, while it tastes really nice, it isn't serving a purpose. But if you're having chocolate before you come and train, that's serving a purpose. You perform better, you build more muscle, you get fitter, and then the cycle continues then. Yeah? Right. Let me bring you all back in a second. Has everyone got all their numbers down? Yeah? If anybody has any concerns around their numbers, whether they think they're too high, too low, it is super contextual. So I've just, what are your guys' names, sorry? Cheryl and Holly. Just spoken to Cheryl and Holly. Their numbers come out for them, what they think is too low, and they are very, very low. If anyone is looking at the number thinking that is alarmingly low, yeah, those numbers are based on like a population-based equation. So it applies to pretty much everybody within the country. The same for like BMI. Like I'm morbidly obese on BMI. I am definitely not morbidly obese, but my body weight to my height, because I am only short, says that I'm in an alarming category of I need to lose a lot of weight. I think my healthy weight is like 69 kilos and I'm 92 kilos. Like there's absolutely no way I'd get anywhere near there. So this number that you've got out there is for the bell curve of people. So you'll sit somewhere within the average. You might find that you need to manipulate that in some ways, and these are not gospel. These are guides to start steering you in the right direction. If it's something that you think is too low, this is why we've got the tree, the hare and the tortoise. It might be that you start at your maintenance numbers. If your goal is fat loss, but you're thinking that hair number is way too low, we'll start over here, have that amount of calories, see what happens to your body weight. If your body weight stays the same, that tells you that's the right amount. You can then consume less and come down towards there, or you can consume the same amount but be more active, which would increase the deficit in a way of not just consuming less. And when I say being more active, I'm saying the non-exercise activity stuff. Walk more, do more low activity stuff, clean the house more. You might have a really happy partner that you're doing that. Loads of things that you can do that aren't classed as just exercise. If anybody wants something that is very specific to them, please grab me at the end of this and I'll talk you through some of the things. The budgeting thing is really important, that you know all of the numbers, and then you budget for the week, you budget for the month, you budget for the year, you budget for the event, whatever it is. You budget for your activity, your competition. You want to perform really well because Murph's coming up or whatever. You want to be able to be in a position where you're in control of what you do. So you can be any of those at any point, whatever the circumstance, whatever your goal. You need to understand that you can do that. If fat loss is the main thing that you are focusing on, think of it in terms of budget for money. So if you get your wage on the first of the month and you blow it all on the first weekend, you're then not got a lot for the rest of the month. The same applies for your calories. If you blow it all in the morning, you've not got a lot for the rest of the day. If you blow it all at the start of the week, you haven't got a lot for the weekend. And that's typically what people do that find themselves going out at the weekend, having a load of drink, something after they drank, something to make them feel better the next day, something to cry on the sofa while they watch a sad movie, whatever it is, and then they then just consume regularly throughout the week and not allowing for the extra that they've had at the weekend. And that might be the thing that just very, very gradually means that they gain weight across time, and all of a sudden you're like, why have I put on all this weight and I train really hard? It's just because of the little things that you're not quite budgeting for. So don't blow it all on the first day. Save for a rainy day, for the thing coming up, for the wedding, for the holiday, whatever, and then you can let loose on things like weddings and all-inclusive holidays because you've saved it, you've moderated. Have fun when it matters. I think that's really important. If you are somebody that is going to prep loads, I'd say try and steer away from some more unhealthy habits, like taking prepped food to restaurants. I'm not saying you can't do that, because it's a very strict way to do it, but I would also say, if we're being real, it's better to go and enjoy a meal with somebody, make some memories, have a bit of fun, enjoy some tasty food, be re-energized, be re-motivated, that you aren't so strict that you then fall off and you're too aggressive in your approach. Enjoy things, but have it within context. You can still make progress whilst having fun when it matters, and being sensible when you can. We've gone through the top portion, which you'll see is listed as your primary goal. That is whether you want to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight. At the very start, that umbrella, that is going to be the main thing. And for fat loss, it is just that. It's just a simple equation, and I wish I could make it a little bit more sexy and tell you that there's like a magic thing that you have to do, or a super split that you've got to do, or certain times of the day that you've got to eat or not eat at certain times, things like that. It isn't. It's just literally an equation of balance, which is great news, although underwhelming, because it's much easier to control. You don't have to bother about anything else. If, however, you've got some more things that you want to focus on, protein is the next one. It says under secondary goals, you've got 1.6 and 2.4. They're the numbers that you would times your body weight by, and they put you in a window of enough protein that you can have throughout the day so that you can gain muscle in an optimal way. If you want to go a little bit further, you can divide it by 6, which would put it into servings, because there's only so much protein you can process throughout the day. So if you're thinking about muscle gain, you want to be having between somewhere of 1.6 and 2.4 grams per day, which would be a little bit more relative to the type of exercise that we do, because we all do some form of resistance training, right? We're all building muscle in some way, so we need to have an amount of protein. If you're someone that is doing the hair and you're being really, really strict with your calories, it's better to be in a calorie deficit and not worry about protein. If you can do both, that's like the sweet spot, but it's very difficult, particularly if you've got a very low number that's putting you in an aggressive deficit. It's quite hard to just eat protein. The things beneath it are things that will help in terms of general health. As a general rule, having more fruit and veg, which you've all heard, your 5 a day, but you just set yourself a target. If you say for the next 28 days, you're going to have more than 2 pieces of fruit or veg a day, and that is an improvement for you, fantastic. That's an improvement for you. The next 28 days will be better just by doing more than 2, because you'd have none. If you want to increase your micronutrient content, fruit and veg is a great way to do it. But if you want to do it a little bit better, think about colours of foods. If you try and have the most diverse colour range on your plate, you're inadvertently covering all the micronutrient bases. If you can have like a dark colour, a light colour, a green colour, all those different colours, and beige technically, if you have all of the colours on a plate, you're having a really balanced meal there. And that's a bit of a rule of thumb to be able to still make progress. And then your water, I talked about hydration. Most of us don't drink enough water. Even if you think you do, you probably don't, especially with how warm it is. And I'm sweating stud here right now, so I know I need to definitely drink some more